Dave Chappelle being attacked on stage. Are we seeing the consequences of anti-free speech fundamentalism? Hello there, you 5.6 million awakening wonders. Thanks for joining me on this journey of discovery and inquiry. Uncertain at the moment as to what is correct and right, but knowing that it will involve coming together and being able to hold apparently opposing ideas in your mind simultaneously, like traditionalism versus progressivism, like allowing people to say stuff you disagree with, like allowing people to identify it in ways that might be novel, new, evolving, emergent, unusual. This incident is an interesting one because it gives us an opportunity to analyse the way that our culture is devouring itself. A Ouroboros, a self-consuming serpent that lays out rules, new regulations that seem not to chime or vibe or align with the way that some people want to live. Before we get into that, I want to thank all 5.6 million of you for following us. I want to make sure that if you're not a subscriber yet, you should subscribe. And I should warn you that if you see in the comments someone going, follow me and I'll give you some hookup to Bitcoin or something like that, or cryptocurrency, that is not me. I will never ask you for anything. I don't want anything from you except perhaps, turn on the notification bell and stay free and awakened. Now, should we have a look at the moment where Dave Chappelle was attacked? Now, remember, I'm a stand-up comedian myself, so I've got skin in the game. And remember, we're all still sort of adjusting and evaluating what happened around Will Smith. Do you remember for a couple of days, no one really wanted to say that was wrong? We did a video about it at the time, and I was like, this is a bit weird because I really like Will Smith. He's lovely, but it can't be right to attack someone on stage, can it? Let's have a look what's happened now to beloved Dave Chappelle.
Breaking news tonight at the Hollywood Bowl. You're looking at aerial pictures here of a man who rushed the stage while comedian Dave Chappelle was performing. He tackled Dave Chappelle. Chappelle appearing in a comedy show there to a packed house. He has been there over the weekend. I actually attended one of the shows on Saturday night. I actually went myself. It was a good night. When you watch this kind of footage, are you getting the sense of a dystopia unfolding around you? A hyper reality where celebrity court cases are entertainment, where ongoing pandemics fluctuate in their significance, where wars are very, very important one moment and then drift out of your consciousness the next, where comedians are attacked on stage just months after we saw a high-profile actor attack a high-profile comic for making what seemed at the time like a relatively innocuous, if perhaps somewhat insensitive joke. What is happening to our culture? We are in this continual state of fraught conflict and uncertainty with no principles to return to, no recourse to a set of shared values that we all know are basically correct. We are defined at this time by oppositionism. Here's where I stand. I would say that anybody should be able to identify however they want to. And by that same principle of freedom, a comedian on stage should be able to say whatever they want to say. If you want the right to say whatever you want to say, you should respect the right of people to identify however they want to identify, and vice versa. If you want the personal freedom to be whoever you are, free from imaginary constructed restraints, then you should recognize that some people are going to say stuff. Now, unless we can get to that point where people are willing to look at the other perspective instead of fiercely guarding their own, we do not have a culture anymore. We have a sort of vibrating conflict, a kind of burgeoning confrontation just waiting to be born. We're a constrained explosion, no real alliance. And recognize that there are other cultural ideas in this world, Chinese state communism, fundamentalist religious ideologies, that are pretty clear about what they believe in, what they believe is right, what they believe is wrong. So as our Western culture falls into decline, and while I recognise that it was necessary to address institutional ideas around race and gender and sexuality, there's been a lot of corruption, a lot of unfairness. Rampant capitalism is out of control. Centralised power of big tech, big media, big business, big pharma is ridiculous. It's gotten out of hand. But it can't be enough for them to simply slap on the badges of BLM or some other woke cause and not address the fundamental issue: economic inequality,
spiritual detachment from reality. You wander into a shop or a store and it means nothing to you anymore. You have no connection to where your food comes from. You have no connection to where information comes from. You have no connection to your neighbors. You are an atomized consumer existing in this world solely to make purchases, to stare dumbly and numbly at screens. And as long as that's your reality, then the titillation and stimulation of sort of trials about important things, but personal things, or attacks on stage will be deemed significant. We are watching the spectacle eat itself. We have to create our own connections, our own communities. We have to rediscover our own values. We have to detach ourselves from this illusion and discover what is real, or we're all doomed.
The controversial comedian has been controversial for much of his career. His remarks lately involving LGBTQ community have sparked some outrage, and he has been unapologetic about that, except saying that he has a lot of love and respect for the LGBTQ plus community.
Dave Chappelle's job is to take us to places of uncertainty, liminal spaces, pose questions and ideas, and invite us to make inquiry about them. What is right? What is wrong? Who are we? You don't think those questions are relevant? I suppose if you are a person who feels personally offended by Chappelle, then I suppose what I would do, because I've had, by the way, comedians literally attack me, not in the abstract. Russell Brand is I've had that happen. And what I feel is I don't like it very much, actually. But I suppose what you have to do is look at what's in that person's heart. What is in the heart of Dave Chappelle? Do you think that Dave Chappelle is a bad person in some weird, permanent, concrete way that's different from other people? I don't. I think Dave Chappelle is a brilliant person asking important questions. And you've got to trust with some people that they kind of know what they're doing, and if you don't like it, I suppose you have to make a personal choice to not get involved in it. Economically, Netflix have obviously made their choice. Now me, where do I personally stand on issues of gender and sexual identity? I've got children. I want them to be whoever they are. I'm aware of cultural impact and cultural influence. I don't want any social force that doesn't feel right to them preventing them actualizing who they are. And I'll do whatever I can as a heterosexual, cis man to ensure that those little people become whoever they're meant to be. And I recognize I've got my own biases and my own problems, but I'm completely open to my ignorance. I'm completely open to my limitations and expanding those limitations. Now, if that isn't enough, what is enough? If Dave Chappelle isn't enough, what is enough? If people are getting attacked on stage for saying stuff, where are we now?
And there were jokes about that and about the controversy in his act, at least the one that I saw on Friday night.
Increasingly, it seems like the social function of comedians is to tell the truth, is to get into difficult spaces and explore the tensions that exist there. If we're going to see these figures shut down first online, then physically rushed on stage at concerts, how are we going to evolve out of this stage? Because I'll tell you this phase of civilization isn't working and isn't going to work. It don't matter if you get Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, the next Clinton or Biden or whoever is going to be churned out by or Obama that the system's going to churn out. It will not work. So where is this new thing going to come from? From where will it be born if we don't approach one another with open hearts? The thing the establishment fears most is people from different ideological perspectives putting aside their differences, coming together against real centralized power, the ability to control resources and manipulate outcomes. Big media, big pharma, big business, state government. Forget everything outside of that. Respect one another, love one another, forgive one another, allow one another to be who you are. And for God's sake, don't rush shamanic on-stage figures who are trying to explore these ideas in real time. Don't lean into censorship. Don't think that that's the solution to prohibit and prevent the conversation taking place. That is never the answer.
That is the suspect who's been loaded onto an ambulance. According to witnesses, he rushed onto stage while Chappelle was performing, and we have reports that the person was armed with a gun and a knife. We do not believe either one of those weapons was used.
Wow, I mean, if this is an armed person, if this could have led to a sort of an on-stage sacrifice of an actual real-time genius, imagine what we'd be dealing with then. Perhaps restraint of tongue and pen and keyboard is something we might consider before damning and condemning another person. I know I opine here on this channel, but I hope it is clear to you that what I am ultimately saying is I don't understand other people's perspectives entirely. I am willing to enter into discourse and conversation in good faith, with open heart, with almost anybody in order that we can start to create new institutions, new cultural spaces together, that we should put aside our bombast and certainty wherever we see ourselves on the spectra or within hierarchies and look at the other person's perspective and be open to the other person's perspective, because look at where it leads. I don't know if these narratives are weird projected constructs, but it's just a bit unusual, isn't it? That 1 minute we're looking at Will Smith smacking Chris Rock about, then the next minute we're seeing Dave Chappelle attacked. Meanwhile, we're aware of Chappelle's own backstory around LGBTQ plus issues. We know that this conflagration, this hostility is brewing. And I want to tell you something that I strongly feel that the establishment, those that are truly powerful, benefit greatly from ordinary people from across the economic, racial, and identity scale being at odds with one another. It pleases them. It pleases them for us to be tribalized. It pleases them for us to be clashing heads when we should be coming together, putting our heads together, collaborating together.
Was that Will Smith?
And there we go. At least Chris Rock gets to catharsize and metabolize that moment that must have really been very difficult for him to deal with. That's one good thing that's come from this. Chris Rock finally gets to do the punchline after his slap line a month or so ago. So something good has come from it. And perhaps yet more good might come from it. Ask yourself, is Dave Chappelle a fundamentally malevolent person? Can we conclusively say there should be no more discourse and conversation around these issues? Are we saying there are some things you don't joke about? Are we saying that to joke about something is the same as to absolutely disrespect people? Are we saying there is no way that people from different perspectives can come together and create a shared culture? Are we saying that it's not possible that different groups of people might be able to live together in different forms of alignment? Are we saying that it's acceptable to attack people with physical violence for making jokes? You know, we don't yet know that there's a direct corollary between those issues, but we do know that there is an ongoing mounting tension day by day where different communities and groups are turned against one another for what seems to me to be increasingly spurious reasons. And I say that with an open heart to all people and an understanding that there are certain ways of feeling and being that I will never understand. So the only option available to me is compassion and openness and an acceptance of my own lack of understanding because of the limitations of my own experience. The open heart is everything. My personal belief, Dave Chappelle has such a heart, and to attack him on stage is not the answer to our current problems. But that's just what I think. What do you think? Hit me up in the comments below. Are you a comedian? Are you affected directly by these issues? How do you want to see this conversation develop? If you're not a subscriber yet, subscribe right now. Turn on the notification bell. If you enjoyed this video, watch this one or this one. Similar issues, hopefully similarly handled. Sign up to my mailing list. I want you to be a member of my community in case we're not on this platform one day. I love you. Please stay together. Please be willing to converse and be open with one another. Stay free.